guys getting set up here real quick. Try that again. There we are. Share. Copy. There we go. Everybody's up. Paste in here. And I'll grab my Covifi. It's warm in here. I might need to get a little window AC unit up here. So I know like Costco has sold those before, so I was thinking maybe get one of those. Good morning, good morning. Happy Monday, right? Today's Monday still, right? Put some of my toys away yesterday, looks like. Alright. Good morning. How are we doing? Yeah, the dog's still a little bit sad too, so yeah, there's always that problem. Thought he might have been okay, but good morning. Getting warmed up. We got teach-in to do today, so. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Popping in. As usual, let me know if there's any questions out there. It's kind of just I'll have to just settle into doing the study. But don't mind chatting while working. Good morning. Good morning, tоварищ. Just doing our little morning, so we want to fill up a couple pages at least with these expression pages from Mr. Stuart Immonen. Alright, you get that. Right now she looks like it's more of like a smile, and it's really more of a pout. So I need to fix that in there. A glaring eye here. This one's a little too, I think, open. There we go. Lower that eyebrow down. Super shiny hair on her. Good morning, good morning. Alright. Yeah, that's much better expression there. Uh-oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry, Bosh. Poor little dog, he hurt his foot the other day. Again. Alright, there's one. So you got a smaller yelling face over here. I think we'll go with that. Alright, looks like that got booped down. There you go. Unprofessional. Not paying attention, right? And put a little face over here yelling. I should see if there's some like video of Stuart drawn here somewhere. I like these little like shorthand heads too on here. I think these were kind of used, not just the fully detailed ones. You know, looking at my iPad up there for the um, good morning. How are we doing time wise? 17? Okay, we got this time. Let's squeeze the other one in here. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Cranking on our morning study, right? Alright. Let's see if we can find another good. Alright. Maybe I'll just go ahead and ink these ones first, see how far we get before I jump into something else. Up, down. Trying to be careful here, right? Good morning. Good morning, people popping in. Doing our morning studies, looking here at Stuart Immonen today from his X-Men run for our little warm-ups. What's a real job for me? Well, I mean, this is I'm looking at there's a specific artist I'm actually looking at over here. So I have my iPad up there in front of me and kind of see it in the window there on the right, and I'm looking at Stuart Immonen's run on X-Men. I'm just using it as like a reference for practicing expressions. And so it's a way I like to warm up in the morning is like looking at other people's things or focusing on something in particular. It's not one of my projects that are ongoing. And see what I can learn. some of these things are also helping me, like with the kind of classes I'm teaching these days. So a real job for me though is I teach. So I don't know if that counts as a real job, but I have fun doing it. And I teach drawing. Well, I teach concept art and illustration at Virginia Commonwealth University. So that's the real job for me. Hello over there on Kick. Um, so yeah, but anyway, one of the areas I wanted to improve, kind of with this new teaching job, is my ability to draw expressions and people from imagination and things like that. Not that you shouldn't get any reference or whatever, but definitely pro reference. But just in general, want to improve this little skill. Um, so I made this part of my morning study, looking at people that I think do a really great job of it, while also kind of practicing it on the side. I guess got some ink on my finger. Today, I started 33 minutes ago, according to OBS. Um, or do you mean like since I started as a drawing in general? Like when I was a little kid? My entire life, yeah. So I started when I was really small, obviously, and just like a little kid drawing. I'm 46 now, almost ready to turn 47, believe it or not. So, these are over here, that's right. So it's been a minute. But there's some things I haven't focused on as much as others, and so like saying, like the character thing was one of them. Just hadn't thought about it that much. I did a lot of landscapes and environments. I've done paintings for galleries. I worked on video games at video game companies, like Disney Interactive when it still existed. So, started taking it seriously, I think, in, high school or middle school. But, and I went to school for illustration and worked as an illustrator at creative studios and game companies. Went to grad school, taught, before then, teaching figure drawing. About comics, I've never worked in comics. I thought about it as a kid. So I read comics, obviously. My first comics were X-Men #1 and Uncanny X-Men 281. That's like Jim Lee, Will Portacio, and Chris Claremont, I think, writing all of those. And it was like, 1991 or something like that. And I thought about it, because I thought comics were cool, right? And I'd sit around and draw from the comic books all the time. I didn't have the internet or anything, so that wasn't an option to learn from or anything. But I kind of found out that comic book artists made only a certain amount of money per page. And that kind of made me say, oh, maybe that's not a good idea. I didn't understand kind of how royalties worked at all, because I was a teenager. What did I know? I didn't know what that meant. Never heard of it. But because like some of those people, like Jim Lee or Will Portacio, they would make, they would get paid their page rate. Their page rate is probably pretty high, higher than other people's. But then they would get paid more after it sold a bunch. So I just wasn't aware of that as a part of the business that existed. So I kind of backed off of that, and then I studied art in high school a lot, and my teachers had me apply to get scholarships at a university, and I got in. And I kind of focused more on illustration, discovered concept art, as a student, and used that kind of as my foundation for a lot of stuff. Also, like studying painting and other things, but. Yeah, I have thought about it. So recently, I've been working on a update to my portfolio, and the way I like to do that is to do some kind of world building project, in a way that's kind of similar to a book called The Skillful Huntsman, which is a fairy tale, but it's a popular book about concept art that I like to recommend to people, and they. What they do is they take a grim fairy tale and they concept out the whole thing. So a group of students, and it came out kind of as I was graduating. I used it as a guide for my own senior project, and then use that as my guide. And then that became kind of, I used that as a guide for kind of developing my own project. So I've come up with a little project, and as I've been working on the world building of it, I've been thinking of stories, because you have characters, and it helps to like think about what they do, not just what they look like. So they have like an actual purpose in that world. And so I've thought some stories. I've written a treatment up, and I've been kind of prepping to start doing it. I don't know how much money there would be in it, but yeah, I've been looking at options, thinking about maybe doing some kind of crowdfunder like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or something like that. And then or maybe do a pitch and send it to like Image or something like that. I mean, I have no background in this area, so I could toss it at them, see what happens. I got a decent audience on Instagram, but I've kind of let it flounder a bit. So, but yeah, I've got a story treatment written up. I've been doing some tests and things over the last year. Continue to work out my story idea and the characters and what they look like and the setting. But yeah, but the rough story version of it is it's basically humans are settled on this. So the concept project is humans have settled on this planet, and the planet looks like a giant tangle of like vines and branches, like massive. Um, but it looks like it's like real plant material. And the way the colony lands or crashes or whatever, and they've settled there. And this is supposed to be like much later, and they've learned to kind of use the local plant life and things as their own technology. And there's evidence on the planet of a kind of a more ancient, hello Trout House, you can hear my story again, more ancient civilization, but the evidence of like them being there beyond some certain types of artifacts, is that's all that there is. There's just these massive kind of I call them totems and vaults. I've been doing some concept art, posting it to my illustration website, Rainland Studios, and they anyway. This said much later. The idea is a guide who's they're not supposed to go out to kind of these nature preserves, these areas out beyond the city because it's dangerous, right? There's dangerous animals. They don't know what's out there. It's a big risk. They don't want people going out there being unsafe, or so they say. And anyway, there's this guide. She takes this father and daughter out on an excursion to check out some of these sites that they're really not supposed to go out to. So kind of go on an illegal guided tour sort of thing. And in the process of that, they get separated. They've all got different problems that they're dealing with that kind of come to focus in the story. I've done some like loose illustrations of it in the concept book, and I've kind of done a rough like storyboard version of the story. So it and then a treatment of it on as like a slideshow. So I did like like a single beat per page kind of script with the let's see. I guess we'll see what we do here. But yeah, so done like single storyboards per page kind of a script, and I spent like 15 minutes per drawing, and worked it out that way. And I've had a lot of thoughts since I did that a while back, and then I need to go back and take an afternoon and rework that. I've just been busy with the school, but yeah, they run into some problems, and the story is kind of about how they deal with the things that they encounter out there in the preserve. But I need to finalize certain things like what the character. I've got two of the characters really narrowed down: the bureaucrat and his daughter. I'm close, I think, on the main character, the guide, and then I need to finalize a few other things, kind of as part of the overall concept project. That'll all kind of serve as my reference for it. But I've been designing. If you go through kind of my streams or posts over on Instagram or YouTube or wherever anyone's watching from, you'll see that's kind of the projects I've been working on are all built around this. Probably overthinking it, but part of it, again, the original intent was for me to create some new pieces and learn some new skills. So there's some 3D stuff I want to do that was concept related. And part of that is like, is I want to have the ability to do a class where we're using Blender as a concepting tool. I've been using this suite of tools called Quick Tools, created by a guy who works closely with a concept artist named Jama Jurabayev. And it's weird, like just recently, he's kind of been talking, the guy who makes the tools, not Jama, but the guy who makes the tools for him in Blender. He's been talking a little bit about AI, like, well, he's like, well, a lot of people are using it, and maybe, I don't like it, but I think maybe we should use it, maybe. I have, what I probably would do is I'd probably do the first 10-ish pages of it, because they're more or less, it's kind of the setup of the story. The treatment I've written is like 50 pages long or 60 pages, something like that. It's like a panel by panel treatment. And so, and I've done, but I was thinking it might be worth doing like a shorter story, like a couple of those, like some 10-page stories or something like that, before I jump into a larger story. So I did last summer. Just amazing how time flies, right? Last summer I did this. I took part of a script from Blade Runner and kind of illustrated that as a comic, and it came out okay. It wasn't great, but part of it too I discovered as I was inking it was part of the problem was the paper was just too rough for me. So I could print it out and maybe re-ink it. And see how that goes, but on the kind of the newer papers I've picked up. But I did do that as a test, and then because at first it's good to like take other people's scripts or stories and kind of maybe as like a practice thing. Basically, you take their story or their script and kind of put your own characters into it, your own scenes. Just as a way of kind of practicing your storytelling, or even taking somebody else's like comic book and like looking at their story beats and then putting kind of your own characters into that scene as just a practice method, or the the basic idea of us using it as like an inspiration source or something. But yeah, I have more than enough to do like a initial thing. I just set to kind of finalize some of the character designs and a few other things. I have like a production list of concept stuff, but I've been distracted partially because my university, we're trying to update our curriculum because it's kind of gotten out of hand over the last since the program started. It's a little unfocused, and I've been advocating for an illustration concentration within it. The original intent of the major was to kind of be this general, like commercial art major, and it's kind of gone down a lot of different roads, which I think has been a problem for it. And I'm newish here, but last year I was asked by the department chair, say, hey, why don't you write up a treatment on this and see what we can come up with. And he wasn't that focused on it, but I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. So I've kind of put together this treatment, and we've been having pretty much weekly meetings about it since, especially this semester, a little bit last semester, but especially this one, and trying to kind of get it all hammered down. I think we've come to a place where I think it's really, really good. There's a couple of things that I would still like to see happen. It's the end of March. Where's the year going? And Stuart. I always write the names on here too, the people I'm studying, in case I forget. I get old and my memory goes. But even if I don't get these last little things that I want, I still think it's so much better than what we had. I've been sharing it with students to kind of get their response and their feedback, and they're oh look, a spam. I hate those guys. Getting kind of students' response and feedback to what we've laid out, and they're just like, we want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, you could wait a couple of years and it'll be ready for you. But we're already kind of starting to adapt some of the curriculum so that it works with it, but kind of setting things up. So we got the new department chair. He's in there and he's kind of reorganizing a lot of it. The things that he can do in terms of like the layout of the semesters and getting things kind of back on a focused track, and then then the what else was the? What was I going to say? The yeah, and then just the process of kind of getting a concentration approved takes a couple years. So, or getting it in put in place rather, not approved. So we've got initial approval on it, and I think it could be really world class. The only hard part I think that we're dealing with next would just be kind of getting some control over the first year program. So because right now we only have them for 3 years in our side of our program, and the hard part has been kind of developing, getting the first year area to like really see kind of what our students need, and but anyway, that's been taking up a lot of my kind of mental energy this season, especially as we're kind of finalizing all of that, getting it all in place, which just takes time. Just got a bunch of white goo all over my fingers from the whiteout here. But yeah, I do have enough for a story. Now I've been thinking about like a shorter story, maybe something that's 10 pages long, maybe like a little heist story. So the main one takes place mostly or almost entirely, or maybe entirely, out in this reserve area. So it's more of a nature area. And I'm thinking about doing something more kind of in the city or the colony. It's maybe a prologue to this, and why do I stream at this time? Because this is when the flowers come up in the morning. I always stream first thing in the morning for these morning studies. I do other things later, but for the studies of masterworks like I'm doing here, I'm sure I can put this down in front of the camera, I guess. There's the these two faces, right? And then over here is that face, and they're right over here. But yeah, I always like to get up first thing in the morning. In fact, I'm a little bit behind. I'd like to start these like around between 6:30 and 7 a.m. I got started around 7:30, which is okay, but it's not optimal. But I think I'm finally getting into the groove of the time change. I don't know, it really hit me hard this year. I don't know why. Like, it's never hit me quite, taken me so long to recover. I think part of it is when I was on the time change, I was in New York City for a couple days, and I let myself sleep in those days. So rather than getting up, when I should, I slept in because things didn't open until a certain time anyway. So I was like, well, I'll just sleep in. And I didn't have my dog with me, and he didn't need his WALK at a certain time. So I didn't have to get up because he was at my sister's hanging out, having a good time with his my nieces, his cousins, I like to call them. And so maybe that's part of the reason why, but I feel like I'm getting the groove back. Looking forward to the summer, and get the characters finalized. Hopefully, really soon. That's something maybe I'd like to focus on. Get this a simpler little story written up so I can do a little test run with them, with the main character and maybe a couple of these other little ones, and then go from there. But yeah. But anyway, I think I'm about done here for this morning, so you're welcome, I guess, to watch the replay. Well, you can watch it like 10 times fast, right? So you just watch me zoom along in my drawing. And, yeah, appreciate everybody that came in, and we'll talk at you.